Well, hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It's time once again for a weekly chatty catch-up on everything I read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading, as well as a little bit of general chit-chat about my life. So this week I finished 2 books. Let's dive into those. First was Ocean's Godori by Elaine U. This is a debut sci-fi novel, and it was kind of an impromptu, a bit buddy read. Dia of Novel Idea had floated out this book as an option some time ago, and it came back up as she wanted to read it this month and put it on her TBR. And I was like, I think I can fit this in this month if you wait until the end of the month. She very kindly saved it and waited for me to be available. And we read it really quickly, probably not as quick as she would have liked because I was very busy, but we got through it real quickly, and it was very, very fun to read, though not at all what I think I expected or what I think it was marketed as a bit. It doesn't match the cover entirely. So this is a story following 3 characters: Ocean, of the title, Haven, and Teo. And it is a really character-driven story, and I think that's sort of the mismatch. The cover, I think, has the same problem as Phoenix Extravagant, where it's very bright, colorful. It looks like an action story. It feels like action adventure is probably what this is going to deliver. This is not that at all. It has a little bit of aspects of that, moments, but not the dominant theme of the book. I would say the dominant theme of the book is relationships. So Ocean is probably the main character, and she is a pilot, a spaceship pilot for an Alliance ship. The Alliance is very kind of like the big interstellar government. But because of her past, she definitely has some baggage. She's got trauma, she's got some things that were misbehavior, or were considered misbehavior. She is relegated to sort of a lower class of ship in the Alliance, basically, because of that, and she can't move up, more or less. But she's very skilled, and she has a lot of talent in that area, and could have pursued higher things, basically, but really enjoys piloting. So her best friend is Teo, who is the son of a very prominent businessman who's involved with a mining operation on a planet, and very, very, very wealthy. And so Teo has a lot of baggage about his family, about the social expectations of his family, because a lot of what he's doing is socially performative aspects of representing his family. So getting into relationships with famous people, fake relationships even, to show off and establish their status and kind of grow that. And so he has a complicated relationship with being a Nepo baby, more or less, I think, where he doesn't totally hate everything about it, but there are complexities to it. And then Haven is sort of this outside character coming into the dynamic between them. Haven is someone who is basically a medic coming onto the ship that Ocean works on, and he has a complex cultural and job, I guess, history. I don't know if I should call it a job. More or less, before this medic role on the ship, he kind of was an undertaker, and that seems to be very socially stigmatized, and is also something that is more of a cultural practice where he's from than it is just a job. And so that's very complex. So back to kind of what I was talking about up front, where this isn't quite what most people would expect. This layers so densely and well the aspects of relationship, and not romantic relationship. There is brief romantic relationship, but not heavily. This is much more about exploring these characters and the dynamics between platonic relationships, the crew and team dynamics of people working together on these ships, and parental and familial relationships are very, very big to this. So we really explore the background of these characters and the ways that they grew up with expectations on them, and the ways that they interact with their parents now. Like, we actually witness interactions with them currently with their parents in every case, pretty much. So it's very interesting the way that's explored, and that is so prominent, that we're really diving deep into who these characters are and having so many sort of quiet moments with them on what is kind of a almost Firefly-esque story. I would say maybe not Firefly, because that's so episodic and adventure. The TV show is what I'm talking about. More like Serenity, the movie, because that has kind of the same tone, where it's got humor, but it's much more serious, and it's got kind of a sweeping plot arc, a large scale drama, secrets, uncovering kind of situation, and that's what this is. So everybody in this story is being brought together by the fact that both Teo and Ocean's ships are kind of beset by raiders. And it seems like these big things are happening, but they seem not connected and become connected. And so you're slowly uncovering the layers of secret plot behind all of this, setting these people off course from what they're used to. And that becomes very Firefly-esque. And at the very end of the story, it also is very sort of Star Trek, like everything out of Star Trek as far as like spaceship skirmishes really plays out at the end. But because this is the first in a series, it does feel like it just sort of ends. And that was very unsatisfying. So I think that was one of the letdown elements of this to me. The other letdown element is that this is not a romance. Romance is not prominent to this at all. So don't take away that this is like a romance. But the author does start to incorporate some romantic elements and romantic relationships as the book goes along. And it's minor and it feels underdeveloped compared to these other relationships that we really dig into. And so it just broke the flow of the story for me, I think, and didn't mesh with the density and complexity that we had gotten before. So I really didn't like any of the romantic relations. Like I was rooting for people to be together, kind of, but I just didn't get behind the ways that the romances were delivered. They felt very immature to me. So I think those were the only weak points, though. I was very surprised for this being a debut from this author. The real exploration of character and trauma and the experiences these people who had been through, the layering of their growth over time was just so great. And I would say if you are in for that, this is going to deliver. But if you want an action-packed sci-fi, this is really not that. And I think that was the marketing flop of this book. There was so much hype about it based on people seeing the cover when it was coming out and being like, wow, this looks so cool. And then it had a very mixed reception. I think this was a book for me, but it's probably not a book for most people, for sure. So I am really looking forward to continuing the series as it comes out, for sure. Yeah, so I think that is that one. And then the other one was actually a reread of Alan Paton's Cry the Beloved Country, and this is a classic for a reason, or modern classic probably for a reason. This is a stunning fiction book about South Africa, but it's such a human story of these two fathers connected by a tragedy, an incredible tragedy. And that story of these two fathers is a vehicle to tell the story of where South Africa is at. So we're following Stephen Khumalo, a Black Zulu pastor in South Africa, as he's going to find out where his son is. His son went off to the big city, Johannesburg, and they haven't heard from him. And so he's traveling there to find out what's going on. And we see there's so much great writing of the scenery, both of the countryside as he's going there is incredible, but the sights and sounds of the city, and in many ways for him, the awful and overwhelming aspects of the city are so well told. The writing is just extremely immersive. It's also really different than I recalled, so it does have that sort of immersive lyrical quality, but it also at times has kind of a staccato quality to it, because we are jumping around a little bit. We're not just getting the narrative of plot, we also get these almost asides of what's happening in the area. So like we see a town hall meeting where people are discussing in the city what to do about the problems of the city. We see a legal trial a little bit. We see some letters, things like that are not quite aligned with the narrative, but they help push along understanding the state of this world. So he's going looking for his son in the city and learning about the plight of the city. It is this very crime-riddled place. There's no housing for anyone. It's kind of hopeless, it feels like, for Black people. And meanwhile, the white folks, and we do have a white father character here as well, Jarvis, and he comes along a little later, but the white folks in this city kind of feel like it's not their problem to solve, or throw their hands up with just not wanting to be inconvenienced. And there was a point where I really almost started just crying at the gym, because it hit so home that these problems still exist. We're having the same conversations now in my country, and it just has gone nowhere. And the same human issues exist of people not wanting to do anything that would require them to be inconvenienced or require them to participate in any way, which is very hard. And it just was devastating to read. There's so much in here that is just still applicable today. There's a lengthy conversation in one of the town hall scenes where they're sort of talking through the ideas of policing and criminalizing people, and just sort of wanting them to the problem to go away and not inconvenience them anymore. And people are posing all of these great suggestions for things that could make their community better and stronger. And all of those things would be inconvenient for someone. So they shoot it down immediately. And, that's about all I can react with. It was such hard reading. It's very confronting in that way. But then we also have, this is a classic, so we probably can't be spoiled, but we have great goodness out of a single person who changes the story for a massive amount of people, for an entire community, a small community in the rural world. And yet, there's an aspect of that was hard for me, because looking at this one white person doing good and affecting a whole lot of people, and they're so thankful and they have such gratitude, and they go, where would we be without this white man? But where would you be without white men in general? Like, you wouldn't be in the bad situation that he had to pull you out of single-handedly. Why is he so disparately, inequitably well off comparative to you, even though he lives right down the road, that he can change your entire community's lives? That's deeply wrong. And this doesn't interrogate those things. So I loved a lot of the messaging that this had, but coming from today, like, I hope we have progressed somewhat. And I can't help but look at it with those critical lenses and go, you didn't go far enough. You were at the surface level with most of this. And the white father, his son is an activist and advocate for the plight of the Black South African and what they have lived through. So we see a lot of this really great advocacy talk of the situation and what can be done to better the lives of everyone, not just Black South Africans, but white South Africans, and how they mutually benefit each other. And also, there is kind of a labor dispute playing out between the laborers in mines and the mining companies, and how the mines have created wealth and enriched the entire South African region, and the laborers are not seeing the benefit of that. And so we see the corporate side too of this, and it's incredible how familiar that sounds, again, to what's going on today, where the corporations are saying, well, we can't pay you more because it would really affect our bottom line, and then we wouldn't have jobs for you, we would go bankrupt, and then where would you be? You know, it's all of that kind of stuff, like everything we've had in the US with minimum wage disputes and stuff. All the exact same talking points over and over and over again. It's so frustrating. So I think the first time that I read this, I didn't take as much away of that stuff. I took away much more of the human story between the fathers and their sons. I didn't take away a lot of the political stuff. And I think that has ruminated in me maybe since then, and that was much more impactful for me in this reading, the larger scale political aspects. So I had a big chunk I really wanted to read out of this from one of the town hall type situations, and it's too long. I think this video would be ridiculous if I tried to read it. But I think if you have not read this, you very much should. I think this is one that benefits from rereading. To what I was saying before, I read this, I think, shortly after college, around the end of my college years. And it certainly had a different resonance with me then to what it does now, a couple decades later. And I could absolutely see rereading this again in the future and taking away different things. There is so much density and layers to this. Great book. So those are the two things I finished this week. I am currently reading a couple of things. I'm continuing on with the Messiah Confrontation. I will probably finish this weekend. though I'm planning to be incredibly busy this weekend. So we'll see. I'm taking it very slow. It's short, and it has been ongoing for a couple weeks, so it really is just what I'm having to sink in and focus on whenever I do. And the other one is I started my treasure hunt, my library treasure hunt book. I picked one a couple weeks ago and haven't had time to start it, and it was up in the air whether I wanted to start that or Bone Clocks by David Mitchell, because that was on my TBR the past 2 months. And I was like, no, I need to do within the month at least, even though it's like the very last day of the month. I need to get to my library treasure hunt book first. So I had to set aside Bone Clocks again. But the library treasure hunt book, I will hopefully finish that very quickly. I specifically picked one that was kind of easy reading. So those are what I have on the go. And I just want to be reading everything, and I have no time. So I guess onward, I didn't finish any shows, so I have no shows to talk to you about. And I don't really have any life stuff to talk about. So as I mentioned, I'm expecting to be very busy this weekend. I'm filming a little earlier than I usually do on Saturday, and I'm expecting to be very busy, but not with anything exciting. I just have a lot of random stuff all clustering in on this weekend. So I'm gonna be busy. I don't know when I'm gonna edit this. We will see if I can get it up even this weekend. But it's just gonna be go, go, go. And as a result, I will not read as much as I want to. So I do expect that I will have a TBR out this week at least. So I should have one video out midweek sometime. And that is about all I'm expecting to do for the rest of the weekend. So with that, I think I don't have any recommendations because I've hardly been watching BookTube. And I guess I will leave you there. I hope that you all have a wonderful week in reading and in life. And thank you so very much for watching.